Easy now. Papa got things making headlines.
Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. I'ma have to cut you off, like right now. You see, I don't want to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me tried the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they ain't finished change. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip.
Welcome to the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, powered by The Athletic. Shout out to the company. My name is Michael Sean Dugar. You guys know where to follow me on the tweet machine at Mike Dugar, MikeDugar. I am verified on there still, and I didn't have to pay. Shout out Elon Musk. Also, shout out to all our YouTube subscribers, Seahawks Man-to-Man, the number 2 man on YouTube. That's the channel. Shout out to all the love and support we're getting on there. Chris, talk to him.
What is good, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at CKIDD206, and that's CKid206.
All right, we're down the home stretch here, week 17, Seahawks Jets coming up. Actually, low-key been looking forward to this game for quite a bit. Oh, drop my microphone there. To talk about the Jets, we have first-time guest on the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, Zack Rosenblatt, who covers the Jets for The Athletic. Zack, welcome to the pod. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, unmute that mic. Zach, unmute your mic.
Sorry about that. I'm having troubles with the plug and it unplugged, and I forgot that I muted.
It's all good, sir. Welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I was saying I'm excited to get out to Seattle. It'll be my first time coming out there, so I'm pretty pumped.
Oh, nice, man. Yeah, fun city. Chris and I are both from Seattle, so
cool.
The weather is what's the word for it, Chris? Right now,
Up and down, everywhere.
Yeah, it's a lot going on. We had like an ice storm like last Thursday, and then we had and then it snowed. No, it snowed, then an ice storm, and then now it's been dumping rain.
Oh,
but it's warm. That's the good news. It's 50 degrees out.
Yeah, it's cold here.
It's very hot. Yeah, it's very, very, very. I don't even know what you pack in that weather, but you'll enjoy it though. Yeah, let's get into. It's your first year covering the Jets, right, Zach?
Yeah, first year covering the Jets. I was covered the Giants for 2 years before that at a different company. Yeah.
Oh, all right, cool. You got on the Jets where they were kind of good.
Yeah, came in at a good time for sure.
Yeah, both teams need this for their playoff lives. Both teams at 7-8. Just in general, Zach, how are the Jets feeling right now, being 7-8, considering how they started, the season?
I think after the way they lost to the Jaguars, I think they all kind of just were resigned to their fate that the season was like playoff hopes were over, and then everything they needed to happen over the weekend happened. The Dolphins lost and the Patriots lost, and so now it feels like there's like a renewed hope again, where they feel like, okay, they have to go 2-0 now. Like there's no other choice. So they feel the pressure of it, and there's definitely like a different like Thursday, as everybody, I'm sure you watched some of the game at least. That was as much of a disaster as it could have been. And I think they're feeling a lot better than they did, about a week ago now. I'm
sure it helps that there's been a quarterback change again.
Yes, that does help. Yes,
which we will talk about. First, let's get into who you think will win this game. Chris, what's the line on this right now?
The line right now is the Jets are favored by 2.5.
Really?
Yeah, it swung after Mike White. It summed after Mike White because the Seahawks were favored by 1.5 to start out, I think, and then Mike White came back and they made it Jets by whatever it is. Yeah.
Wow, man. Some Jets fans got large pockets. A 3-point swing is pretty big for the QB change. Like a QB change that isn't like, Patrick Mahomes coming back.
Yeah, exactly. Like that, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts. All right, Zach, with that in mind, give us a score, man. What you got on Sunday?
Oh, man, I've gone back. Mike White coming back does offer a boost. The Jets we'll get into a lot of the stuff, I'm sure. I do have some concerns about like their offensive line and some other stuff, but I think the Jets win this. I'll say Jets. Say Jets 24, Seahawks 17.
Oh wow, that's a scoring barrage for the Jets.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that is for the Seahawks offense lately too. What's the over/under on this, Chris? Is Zach taking the over or the under?
Probably.
Let me take. I think it's probably the over, just based on these offenses. But let's take a look.
42.5 is what I'm seeing.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
We don't do math on this show, so I don't know whether to add up Zach's total and see if I think that's the under.
Yeah, that's under.
That's like right under too. Zach's a gambler. There we go. Chris, who you got?
Well, the line just went down to -2. so I'm sure it's gonna
Since we started talking.
This is a tough game because the Jets defense is pretty good, man. Really good, actually. Just looking at their stats, how stingy they are in the red zone. Quinnen Williams. They also have Carl Lawson. They got some dogs, man. And the Seahawks have been struggling. But I would go down with the ship. I think this is what you would call a game that the Seahawks must win. And offensively for the Jets, I don't know if they will be able to keep up, per se, with what the Seahawks can offer. I don't know if Ty Lockett is going to play. So that's going. Do you know if Ty's playing, Mike? What's the latest on that?
I don't know. It's very weird. I know our fantasy managers all want this update. I will say it's strange because Tyler can do everything but catch the football, so it's like, well, that's kind of important. And he's not one of those guys who needs to practice all week. So he could be like a DNP Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then if he wakes up Sunday, Gino throws him a pass in the lobby of the hotel. He catches it and like, all right, you're playing, so who knows? I would guess he does not.
Okay. So no Ty Lockett. I think it's going to be maybe a Geno Smith goes down last 2 minutes and wins the game. That's where I'm going with it. I'll take the Seahawks 23-20.
All right, we got a close one. I struggled with this game as well. Although Mike White, man, when watching film on him, I'm like, this dude's a gamer. This guy, that dude's got some heart. He probably doesn't have any rib cartilage left, but he probably does have some heart. However, I think I will, just watching the offense in general. I'll go Seahawks as well. I'll low scoring though. I'm thinking like 16-13.
It's probably the right call, honestly.
Yeah, I'm thinking turnovers,
especially if it's going to be rainy too.
Yeah. I just think I think both these defenses, when the ball's in the air, are gonna make plays on it, as we will get into as well. But we'll start with quarterback play. That's kind of what we do here on the show. I have a favorite question that I love asking everyone about the quarterback they cover. So I'll just give you this 4-word question, Zach, and let you roll. Is Mike White good?
Man, such a simple question, but feels very hard to answer still for me. It's like all relative, I guess. I don't know, because like Zach Wilson was so bad that I think Mike White has become like this like hero in New York just because he's able to complete passes and he can move the offense and gets rid of the ball fast, which makes the offensive line's job easier. Like I think he has the ability to be good. I'm not ready to like declare him good yet. I need to see more of it. I think he's only started 6 games in his career or 5 games in his career, which is really like it. He's viewed as like this veteran journeyman guy, but he's only started like 6 games in his entire career. So there's still like a level of we need to see what he can do kind of thing. I think these next 2 games are really going to answer that question. And I think he has a chance to like win the starting job in New York, which is kind of like, it's crazy to think that the season was supposed to be about evaluating Zach Wilson. It's turned into, all right, well, Zach's not the guy. So now it's about evaluating Mike White. So I think he can be good. I think he can be a capable starter. Can he be like a Pro Bowler? Probably not, but he can be a guy that I think can be like a game manager for you. So I don't know if that really answers the question, but
that's I just let you guys go on. I let all the guests just go on it.
I'm sure everybody kind of does that too. They're like, oh man, I don't know.
Yeah. For the most fascinating ones are always anyone who covers the Vikings.
Yeah.
Is Kirk Cousins good?
Kirk, yeah.
Blows people's brains try to answer that one, and it still does actually.
Yeah,
ask people. I want to shout out a story you wrote on Mike White, man. The headline: Why everyone loves Mike White, the Jets quarterback and ultimate family man. And the story about the family side of him is like excellent as well.
Thanks.
But like the part you really get that people like, he's like you said, he's got folk hero status.
Yeah,
already. Like a lot of franchises have that. Seattle's had a couple guys, Luke Wilson, the former tight end being one, their punter, John Ryan.
Yeah.
And like it's very rare you get to that status as a quarterback though. It's usually like lovable, undersized guy type thing, early Adam Thielen type of vibes, John Kuhn and like Green Bay, guys like that, not the freaking quarterback throwing it for 300 and something yards a game. But I want to talk to you, Zach, about Mike, and I want our listeners to hear some of these splits here. These are courtesy of True Media. I looked up the numbers when Zach's the quarterback and the numbers for the offense when Mike White is the quarterback, and it blew my mind because I knew the offense was better, but when I wrote it down, I was like, oh, this is freaking nuts.
Well, I think not before you even go. I think I had something. I think in my story today. I think literally like if I forget what the stat was, but I think it was passing yards or. It was one of like the main stats. Like literally, if it's just when Mike White's in there, the Jets are first in the league, and when Zach Wilson's in there, I think they're like 30th. So that's just like gives you the stark like difference. But yeah,
Oh,
go ahead. I'm sure you had similar stats like that.
Yeah, no, I don't have the ranks. Well, that's very
Yeah.
important. They're
Yeah.
like it's with Mike White, it's like 5.9. It's like 6 yards a play.
Yeah.
Zach gets a full yard less, which like that doesn't seem like much, but in
It's
the
a lot,
context, that's of an actual game, that's quite a bit. Like Zach's sack rate is 9.5%. Mike's is only like 3.8. That's a huge difference. Third down numbers are different. I think it's like 41% with Mike. What do I got here for Zach? 31. With Zach, that's a huge difference as well. Getting 7 more first downs per game with Mike under center or in shotgun, however the hell. Mike's over 300 passing yards a game when he's in. Zach's at 168.
Yeah,
that's disgustingly different.
It's wild.
Like,
yeah,
that is unbelievable. What does Mike do that's so different? I mean, obviously, other than play better, but like, what specifically is he doing that's just so different than Zach in the same offense?
Well, the thing that he does, and it's an important part of like the Kyle Shanahan offense, is he just takes what the defense gives him. Like he's perfectly fine doing checkdowns the entire game if he has to. He can throw it to the middle of the field. He's good in the intermediate area where Zach really struggles. Where a little more traffic and you have to kind of squeeze it in there a little more. He is willing to take shots down the field, though maybe not as much as like some of the better quarterbacks in the league. But yeah, he takes what's in front of him. He doesn't try and force things, and I think that's what. Like the Jets are talented enough on defense, and they have weapons like Garrett Wilson and before Breece Hall got hurt, and Elijah Moore. Like they have these guys on offense around him. And they have a great defense to where they just needed a quarterback who could do that, who could like do the very basics of his job. And Zach Wilson was not doing it. He was missing the easy passes. He was making amazing throws, but missing the easy ones, and they were losing some games because of that. I mean, they would have won the 2 Patriots games if not for Zach Wilson. That's like a reality. We're having a different conversation right now. In a lot of ways, because the Patriots would only have like 5 wins right now. So they've literally just been looking for competence at quarterback, and out of all the guys that have played for them, they've had 4 guys play for them at quarterback this year. Now he's the only one that's had like actual competence. So it's a very like simple sounding answer, but that's literally all they've needed, and they haven't really gotten it from Zach in the games he's played.
The football junkie in me has become more interested in press conferences from head coaches after a bad game from their quarterback. It's a very specific thing.
Yeah.
Very entertaining because coaches they haven't seen the film, but they know they're pissed already.
Yeah.
And Robert Salas have been very entertaining because I feel like, and this is a toss to you, Zach. I feel like after Zach plays bad initially, he's like lukewarm upset with Zach, it's as much as you can be like right after the game. And then like whenever he talks to you guys after he's seen the film, he's just like, I'm never playing this guy again. Like it gets very extreme here. Like how is Saleh in the Jets like kind of viewed this terrible season from Zach really?
I think Saleh, to his credit, has handled it very well throughout the year. He's like stood behind Zach even when, after the first Patriots game when he threw 3 interceptions, Saleh was like, he's only getting benched if it's for injury. Like this is our quarterback of the future, blah blah blah. And then he has the other Patriots game, which is absolute disaster, and he has his post game press conference that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and that kind of blew up. And so the tone has changed. And then when he comes back in after Mike White gets hurt, and he has, a pretty like below average game against the Lions, and then a really, really, really bad game against the Jaguars in front of a national audience. And now the tone has just changed from Saleh, where he's like, we still believe in this kid. We still think he can be a part of our future, as opposed to saying he is the future. They're saying we think he can be a part of it. So I think it's pretty obvious they've like moved on from the idea of him being like the starting quarterback long term. I don't think they've necessarily given up on him, but I think like I've said this since he got benched the initial time, he wound up being like a victim of their success because he's a guy that's like so raw and clearly need to like work through his growing pains and needed to improve on all the things that he's like really like behind on. But they're a team that can't afford to have a quarterback that's working through these growing pains because they're good enough to make the playoffs. Like they started 5-2 and now they're 7-8. And that's a pretty bad, I mean, the Seahawks have been dealing with this too, but and both teams did not have the expectations coming in. It's kind of funny because I think both fan bases probably didn't come into the season thinking playoffs. And then when you get like a little taste of a great start and then now they expected it. And so now when they're, I don't know how the Seahawks fans are handling like this end of the season swoon, but Jets fans are pretty upset about it. So it's just funny to me, like if you had said at the end of the season, they would have had 8 or 9 wins, Jets fans would have taken that. And now it's like, if they're not in the playoffs, they'll be pissed. But yeah. So the sad part is fans are going to probably blame Zach for a lot of that. And he deserves some of the blame for sure. It's not all him, obviously, but He's been kind of like the common denominator in all their losses, I would say, or most of their losses that he played in.
Chris, didn't we just talk about that? How like the season's kind of weird if you view it just
That
like
was our last episode. You literally broke down that.
We talk about that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that the Seahawks coming in, expectations were this. Oh, you guys are 6-3. Okay. And then you've lost the last 7 out of 6 out of 7 games. That's
5 out of 6.
5 out of 6. Okay, excuse me. That's not good. And
Yeah.
regardless, the fans in Seattle are not happy. They want to sit. They're saying at this point, hey, let's just pretty much tank for the best draft choice. They don't even care about the rest of the 2 games. They're like, at this point, we'd rather just draft a quarterback. And Mike tries to explain, like, hey, you probably shouldn't do that because then that means the season was a failure. Try to win these last 2 games, but fans, they're very emotional in that regard. Our listeners, they're torn. Some people are saying do this, some people are saying do that. But as you mentioned, the Jets fans are not happy. Seahawks fans are not happy either. And I'll stick with the offense and look at Breece Hall, who went down with a season-ending injury. Things were looking good for that guy. I'm not going to lie. He was on pace to do some pretty incredible stuff. But now looking at that running back group, have you seen flashes where someone's being consistent? And how do you think that'll fare on Sunday as the Seahawks are trying to rebound defensively and just stop everything, run, passing plays, you name it? So how do you feel that matchup with the running backs with the Jets there?
Yeah, with the Breece thing, that's another factor in all this is that if he doesn't go down, then Zach might not even ever get benched because the Jets were just like missing a running game in like those Patriots games, and Breece he was like, as you said, he was like on track to be the offensive rookie of the year and probably like break some records as a rookie. Like that's how explosive and impressive he looked. When he went down, they were really missing his explosiveness. They traded for James Robinson. That was kind of a bust. They don't even play him anymore. And then they have Bam Knight, this undrafted rookie that was on the practice squad to start the year. And he showed some flashes. He got some bursts. He's kind of like a poor man's Breece Hall. He can hit the hall pretty good, and he's pretty tough to bring down. But the run blocking has been very, very poor lately. And when the running game is not going, this offense is just not working because they usually use the running game to feed into the passing game. And so when the running game's not working, or when Zach Wilson's in there, they're not even scared of the pass, so they're loading up the box. And so they've been in a tough spot. The running game has been really, really poor. I think Michael Carter, he's kind of shown that he's never going to be like the guy as a running back. He's like a solid like number 2. So they don't really have like the dynamic kind of player they had with Breece. So it comes down to whether those guys are run blocking up front well. And they tend to, like, if you look at the numbers, the offensive line plays better when it's not Zach Wilson in there. I don't know how much to read into that, but it's just like the stats are like even like stats you were saying, like there's a lot of numbers you look at it and it's like really stark. So I'm very curious to see how that looks against the Seahawks, because if their running game is not going, then it's going to be a problem.
That's funny. It literally mirrors what the Seahawks need to do. If they can't establish the run, they're saying, hey, Gino, here's the keys. Can you make something happen? Maybe make the car start. We can get rolling, anything possible. And that might really come down to it. Who actually establishes the run first? Will it be the Jets or the Seahawks? Whoever does that consistently walks out of there with a victory. But even though things aren't always good on offense, you guys do have a stud 10th overall pick in Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
How would you rate his overall first season? And then on the tail end of that, what are our expectations for him going up against the Seahawks when they have a stingy secondary with Tariq Woolen? Obviously, we'll get into that. And then Mike Jackson, who's been playing really good football this season, as well as Quandre Diggs in that secondary.
Honestly, Garrett Wilson's he flashed a lot in training camp. He was having some issues with drops, and I think he was still like learning a lot of route running and stuff. So in my head, I thought it was going to take him some time to like get used to the NFL, and then you'd see him like coming into his own in the second half of the year. But it was pretty much right away you saw that he was kind of like a special talent. Like week 2 against the Browns is when he really broke out. He just has like he uses athleticism in a way that I haven't really seen very often from receivers, where even if he's not refined in his route running, his athleticism is so amazing that he'll like juke corners out of their sneakers and then he's open. And so in the games, if you look at his numbers, in the games where he wasn't getting stats, a lot of times it was just because the quarterback was not delivering him the ball, Zach Wilson. And he was pretty open about one thing that's been unique about him and Sauce, really. These guys are like very vocal. They're willing to talk about when they're frustrated about things. They like call people out. Like it's been very interesting to see. And everybody listens to them. Like they're so respected in the locker room that they're able to do that. But I haven't really seen a corner that's like shut down Garrett Wilson yet. I've seen the quarterback not be able to deliver to him when he's open, but he's so good at getting open, number one, and number two, he's very good after the catch because of the way he can move. and because of athleticism, he can go up and get pretty much any ball. So he's as advertised. They kind of move him around. He'll play in the slot on the outside. I think he's a guy that defenses have been scheming against, and they haven't really been able to stop him. So I am curious to see how the Seahawks handle it. Because if you stop Garrett Wilson, they have other guys. They have Corey Davis, they have Elijah Moore, they have a couple of tight ends, but none of them are as dynamic as Garrett Wilson or scare you quite as much.
We'll stick with Garrett on our over-under reception yards, 62.5. Are you going to take the over on that, or are you going to go under?
Yeah, I'll take the over on that, especially because he likes playing with Mike White a little bit more than everybody else. So I think he's going to get up for this one.
Mike White's going to have a statue outside of One Jets Drive here. If he gets the Jets to the playoffs, like Jets fans might make a statue out of whatever the hell you make a statue out of in Jersey or New York or whatever, man. The status. I really encourage all you guys when you're done listening to this show, go read Zach's piece, man. Just Twitter search Mike White, to be really honest, and you're just gonna find just positive comments about him from the teammates and everything. It's just really fascinating how you got a guy at quarterback who's as loved as he is. I will throw this in there, Zach, before we go to the defensive side. Seahawk fans are upset about how the season is ending, but having the third overall pick potentially from Denver has kind of soothed a little bit, which I can
disaster over there.
Yeah, exactly. They can kind of like, well, okay, even if we don't make the playoffs, we get Denver's pick, so we didn't have to to get a top 5 pick. Like the season was fun, we got a top 5 pick out of it without being terrible. So yeah, but there are some in the building, and it's very similar to the Jets. I'm sure, like, what the fuck, man? How are we not a 10-win team right now? Team, both teams probably figured they should have 9 or 10 wins going into this game. I'm sure. All right, it's time for the greatest debate in sports. It is time. Tariq Woolen versus Sauce Gardner. 2 favorites for defensive rookie of the year. The Seahawks have already basically every time they mention Tariq in a tweet this week, they have called him potential defensive rookie of the year winner. Like they're feeding into it. I loved Sauce's tweet.
That was really funny. Yeah.
Dang it. Why didn't I save it? Chris, do you have that? Do you have Sauce's tweet? Can you find that from me real quick?
Still up, I think, because he didn't delete it. So I think it's still up. I looked it up the other day.
You can't delete that. That's just an amazing, just so much shade. You got that, Chris?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. Give me a second.
I would love a rookie rivalry here, man.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that. When this week was coming up, because it's kind of cool to have rookies kind of doing this. I feel like guys don't really do this kind of stuff anymore, where they kind of talk a little trash.
No, they really don't. And I think I'm about to put my old head hat on. But I feel like it is what we're seeing in basketball and football. It's that these guys all play on these like 7-on-7 select.
They all know each other and stuff.
Yeah, they go to these Nike camps and they meet each other when they're 15 and they try to recruit each other to these schools and they're all buddy. So by the time they all get to the league, it's kind of like more brotherhood, less feud, which is fine. But yeah,
and also I feel like when you get to the NFL, a lot of these coaches are trying to tell them like don't make a headline from your comments, whereas Sauce like can't help himself. And I don't know what Tariq's like personality wise, but Sauce like, you ask him something and Sauce like can't help but like say a little something every now and then.
Yeah, Tariq's pretty reserved in that way. Doesn't say a lot, but if you poke him, you know, like he'll he might say something. You got that tweet, Chris?
Man, how far was it? Man, when did he sent this
I
out?
found it. I can read it if you want.
Oh, there we go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I should have asked the Jets reporter.
He said, Jets Nation, just want to say that y'all are the reason I passed whoever was leading in Pro Bowl votes at the cornerback position. And then he thanks the fans for supporting him. But the main point is that line. So whoever
leads.
Oh. And he knew what he was doing when he did that too. Like,
oh yeah, he 100% knew who leads. If he didn't know just by looking it up, his agent A would tell him, or B, Jets fans would tweet it directly to him, like screen grab.
Oh, and he was I know for a fact he was tracking the votes. There was one day in the locker room when the voting was still up. I'm like all the way across the locker room, and he yells across, "Hey Zach, you vote for me yet?" I was like, "I'm not voting, Sauce. You can vote. You're a fan of the game." I was like, "All right."
All right, so I have we did an exercise, me, Zach, and Colton. Shout out to Colton who covers the Lions, doing a great job covering them for the Athletic. We basically had to like make a bid for the defensive rookie of the year candidates that we covers. Colton handling Aiden Hutchinson, who's having a great year. Zach handling Sauce, and myself handling Tariq, who's playing well. So I already have a bunch of numbers in front of me for this, but Zach, I want you to go, or I can read some numbers for you, but I want you to make the case for the good old Sauce Gardner as defensive rookie of the year. What you got? Floor is yours.
Yeah, he's just like, just in terms of the Jets, he's changed everything they can do on defense just because he's completely shut down his side of the field. These last few weeks, he wasn't targeted against the Lions a single time, which I can't think of many times our rookie hasn't been targeted over the course of like 4 quarters in a long time. Like that's like an old school, like on an island thing where because of the rules, it's been like harder to have a guy that can do that, where he shuts down a whole side of the field. And so he's allowed Robert Saleh to do all the things that they want to do on defense. And, he's gone against all the star receivers this season, and not a single one of them has really. Stephon Diggs beat him for a long catch when they played the Bills. It was the first catch of the game, and then Diggs did not beat him the rest of the game. He gave up a touchdown against the Browns, but it was a miscommunication with the safety. Like the safety was supposed to come over and help, and he didn't. And so that was the only touchdown he's given up all year. And so you look at, I know he doesn't have the interceptions. I think he has 2. I think he's among the league leaders in pass deflections.
He is the league leader.
Forced incompletions, I believe, on PFF. He's up there, if not the league leader. He's one of the top couple. And yeah, he just doesn't get beat. And then if he does, it's like one time in a game. And they don't really move him to like follow guys, which I know some have taken that as like a negative, I guess. But he is capable of like in week 1 against the Ravens, he followed Mark Andrews. Like this is his first game of his career, and he's shutting down Mark Andrews, who's like one of the 5 best tight ends in the league. And so he's just been able to do some really amazing things. He's a pretty solid tackler. He had a blitz against the Dolphins that injured Teddy Bridgewater and got a safety and kind of set that game off where they killed them. And he just made such an impact on this defense where both him and DJ Reed together, but especially him, they shut things down on the back end that allows Quinnen Williams to dominate up front. And I don't know. I honestly haven't watched enough Seahawks to like completely judge how they use Tariq Woolen or anything like that. I can only base it on what I see. And I have a hard time believing there's even been very many better corners in the NFL this year than Sauce. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Here we go. That's a good pitch.
Oh, thank you.
Also, I will say this: I watch there's like 3 teams that I'm just oddly tuned into. It's 4. It's the Chargers, the Lions, the Jets, and the Dolphins.
Wow, those are 4 teams that are just messes too. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Wow, I did not put that connection together. I guess I would just need like the Commanders or something to really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This dysfunction circle. But yeah, those 4 teams I'm just following closely for just strange. I don't know. I just don't like. I follow you. I follow Will. I follow Connor. Like I follow a bunch of people who cover the Jets. I would not follow otherwise. But I would to add to that. When you watch some film of Sauce, like that dude looks like he'll be good forever. Like he'll be the dude who, if he's like 46 years old and still wants to play, and his son is a rookie, like put Sauce and Sauce Jr. in the same secondary on some Frank Gore and Frank Gore Jr. shit.
And he was blessed with some God-given like size and athleticism too. Like you can't like recreate Sauce. Like I've never seen a corner that. I mean, Tariq Woolen honestly is probably one of the only other ones that kind of looks like him, where he's tall and fast and athletic. So like his ability to like, if somebody gets behind him, he recovers in a really amazing way where he still breaks passes up. So I don't know, he from literally day 1 in training camp, and I try not to make too much in training camp, but sometimes you can kind of tell if a guy's like the real deal. Like he was not getting beat by anybody one-on-one, and that includes Garrett Wilson, who's a stud now, Corey Davis, a veteran, Elijah Moore. Like anyone he was lining up against, he was shutting them down in camp. And when they had joint practices, he picked off Desmond Ridder. I mean, he practiced against Ridder a lot, so I'm sure that wasn't as hard for him as some other quarterbacks. But yeah, I don't know. Since day 1, since I got here, which was in training camp, I've never really covered a player that was this good right away before.
Yeah, this dude got some. The ceiling on this guy is crazy. And the thing that we have, as we get to Tariq here, the thing that we have in Seattle, which is very like good for evaluating corners, is DK. Right, so it's like if you can go one-on-one with that guy, it's just like, all right, he is the measuring stick. Can you handle this in practice?
Yeah, because they don't make many receivers that look like him. Yeah,
right. Yeah, like you'll be fine generally speaking. Some of the unicorns out there, it really doesn't help. Like covering DK, I don't think prepares you too much at all for like covering Stephon Diggs, for example. Like that's just totally different.
Yeah.
Get the point. But yeah, that's Tariq. That early in camp, very similar to Sauce. It was just like, wow, they sure can't catch a ball on this guy. Well, that's weird because he's a rookie. Oh, well, no end zone fade to DK. I can't catch it. Holy shit. Wow. And this is when Tariq's like the backup, to think that like 3 weeks into the training camp or whatever, it was like, there's 2 other guys better than Tariq. beats me. Two guys who don't play. One of them's not even on the team anymore. And Sidney Jones. I do want to read some stuff on Tariq here and Sauce, because I do think they are the two best corners in football.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy, but I agree, honestly.
Honorable mention to James Bradbury of the Eagles, who I don't think made the Pro Bowl, which is weird. But it probably also one of the best corners in football this year. Crazy. Anyway, read some of these numbers here, which are really great for both guys. Passer rating allowed, which is flawed, but I still like using it for corners. Tariq's at 53, which is second among all corners, minimum 200 snaps. So we weed out some of the guys who play like one snap. Sauce is at 63.3. That's sixth. This is all according to Next Gen stats. Shout out to them. Yards allowed per coverage snap, which is also a good stat for corners, which is not as flawed. It's actually really good. Sauce and Tariq tied for fourth at 0.8. That's nuts. So put that in perspective. That's not even a full fucking yard, man. Like, these guys aren't giving up anything when they're out there covering. Pretty ridiculous. And if they do, they're not giving up a lot of yards. Hawk rate, and I love hawk rate. I've mentioned this on the show before. Hawk rate is the rate at which a guy makes a play on the ball when he's targeted. Just a great way of gauging corners, whether you pick it or knock it down. It's just great. Tariq leads all corners at 25.5%. Insane. One every 4 times you throw it at Tariq,
he's getting his hands on it. Yeah.
Sauce 22.9 is number 2. Just ridiculous at 23%. So that's not 1 every 4. That's like, I don't know. I'm not good at math, but either way, I know that's a shit ton, which is why it's second. Tariq leads the league in interceptions with 6, also a pick 6. Sauce has 2, tied for, I think, 14th. There's a shit ton of guys with 2. Passes defense, Sauce leads the whole league with 16, which is nuts because I think he's played every game, right? 15?
Yep.
15 games. So 16 passes defense in 15 games.
Yeah.
That's bananas. Tariq has 14 in 15 games. He's tied for 3rd. Like, these dudes are just right on it with one another. The next gen stat stuff on touchdowns allowed gets a little funky. Like you said, Zach, Sauce is really only giving up 1. He's credited with 2. Tariq's credited with giving up 3. Really only giving up 2. I don't really like.
And PFF has Tariq with 5, which I'm guessing is wrong.
Yeah, PFF's numbers. There's a reason why I like Next Gen for DB stuff in general, safeties and corners.
Yeah,
because PFF does a lot of not guessing. I don't want to say that. That dismisses the intelligence of their guys.
Yeah, it's just more like they're evaluating it based on without having all the information or whatever. Yeah.
Bingo. Yeah, it's not projecting. That's probably the better word. Like, assuming this was the coverage, all that other stuff. Targets as the nearest defender, Sauce has 70s, Tariq at 55. Tariq has the 3rd lowest target rate among corners at 12.4. Sauce at 15.2. So you got 2, which is tied for 20th. You got 2 dudes here built like fucking freaks, covering the ass off, making plays on the ball when they come. But the reason I think Tariq is the guy for Defensive Rookie of the Year just far is when the ball does come his way, he is making plays on it at quite literally the highest rate in the league with 6 interceptions. And here's an interesting thing, Zach, and I'm curious where you stand on this. The not getting thrown at thing, because I had this argument with Jets fans quite a bit recently. Getting retweeted by you.
I always worry when I retweet people because Jets Twitter can be pretty mean, but you've dealt with them, you said. So
yeah, the Jamal Adams trade has actually prepared Chris and I for dealing with Jets fans. They're a
wild
lively bunch there, and they do not like Jamal.
Not to, real quick, funny thing about like the PFF stuff. So like Sauce is well aware about how crazy Jets fans are, and so like there was a time where he got dinged for a touchdown that he didn't actually give up, and he quote tweeted it, and then Jets Twitter just like went at PFF until they changed it, and the PFF changed it. So
that's what I've also learned about PFF. I don't want to just shit on them, but
they
can be like a phone call from a player or a coach can get them to change some shit. Like, I know a player on the Seahawks a couple years ago he hit them up after the season, and he got like 200 yards removed.
Oh my god, I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, I'm not naming the player, but that's like, so they can be swayed, and I feel like if you're doing your job right with DBs, you should never be that far off. Like, you should not be hundreds of yards. Off on a touchdown can be whatever, but like, dude. How you think I gave up 600 yards? Right? And then I could convince you I gave up half of that in a phone call?
Yeah,
that's bad. That's pretty great. I'll tell you guys when we're done recording which player that was. But the not getting thrown at thing is so interesting because I was really big on that, particularly when I growing up loving Revis and Sherm in particular. because they were two guys who were able to shut shit down. And then the more I watch, and I'm curious on how this has worked out for Sauce, like how that's going when he's not getting targeted, what is happening? Because you can see a guy not get targeted. Like the Seahawks have had problems with that. I'll give the most extreme example. One game they had him shadow Antonio Brown. I think it's 2015. Antonio had like 60 yards. But then like Martavius Bryant or something, or Marcus Wheaton had like 200, and Big Ben threw for like 400. So the not being thrown at thing cannot always be inherently good for the defense. Like they could score a touchdown still, or they could throw a pick six somewhere else. You never really know. But when Sauce isn't getting targeted, Zach, what is happening with the Jets defense? Is it like usually a net positive when quarterbacks are forced to go the other way?
That's an interesting way to phrase the question. I'll say what teams tend to do against the Jets, and they've done this even when in weeks when they would target Sauce a little bit more. They try to dink and dunk them to death. It's all in the middle of the field. They're going after Michael Carter II, who's their nickel corner. He's pretty solid. I think that's I think it's underrated how hard of a job it is to be a nickel corner, honestly. But so he gets targeted a lot. So a lot of the yards come from the running backs on screens, and they come from tight ends getting covered by the linebackers. The Lions like barely even targeted Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know he's mainly in the slot, but and like the outside, I don't think DJ Chark really had any targets that game. So they really change what the teams are playing have to do against them. I'll say, which I think is an impactful thing. Like you're not seeing teams really take shots down the field against the Jets as much. And when they do, it's because they did like some sort of trick play and they tricked the linebackers and the tight ends wide open, like against the Lions. So I don't know. Like we talked about, the defense has been really good this year. So I think it's what they're doing is working. They don't give up very many points. They don't give up a lot of rushing yards most weeks. And their problem has mostly been on the short yardage thing. So I think what it does is it forces teams to try and beat them slowly. And some teams are able to do it because the Jets haven't been scoring on offense. And other teams are not really able to do that. And that's where the Jets have been able to win. So
yeah, you'll need like 17 points or something like that.
I think there's something like 7-1 when they score more than 18 points. And
Wow.
18's not even that much. So that tells you everything. Yeah.
That's an amazing stat.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, you're our judge and jury here. If you had to pick a defensive rookie of the year, forget what you watched on your own, just what you've heard today. Who you got?
To be honest, I'm one of those people that's willing to say, hey, I'm giving you guys both an award. Can that be done? That's how close it is, and that's how good both of these guys have been. I feel it's almost a disservice to give it to one guy, not the other, because they both have been right there. Like both of you guys' arguments are accurate. I can't take away from that. But to say one guy deserves it and another guy doesn't, this might be the only time ever where I say both of them get an award. That's how good they have both been. And watching Sauce a lot this season, man, he really does shut down one side of the field. And to your point, Mike, okay, so what happens when he does shut down that side? Oh, they just dink and dunk. With Tariq, the Seahawks defense is, as a whole, they've done a really good job for the most part, at least passing. Running is a completely different ball game. So with that scenario, it's really close, but I really would say give it to both of them. I can't just say Tariq deserves it more than Sauce or Sauce deserves it more than Reek. Like I don't know if the NFL would ever consider this, but why not just both you guys deserve it? Like first time ever in history. Because sure, there have probably been other times where things have been this close, but I honestly can't remember where I looked at it and said, damn, if you give it to one guy, does that other dude really not deserve it?
I do feel like with these discussions, a lot of times what winds up happening is like one fan base is trying to like take down the other player. But I think everybody should just be like, all right, these are two like awesome rookies that are doing things that I haven't really seen rookie corners do. Besides like Patrick Surtain last year is the only other example recently. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that some of these debates sometimes where you're like debating who's the MVP, it's like you have to like shit on the other guy in order to say that your guy's good. You could just say, no, my guy's better because he does these things kind of thing. You know what I mean? Because I think either of them have a near perfect resume for a defensive rookie of the year, but they're competing against the other one. Yeah.
It's that close. So, Mike, I'm sorry. I don't have an answer for you. But
you're not sorry, or you would have gave me an answer. Don't.
You're right. I'm not sorry. That is my answer. Both of them get an award, and I am sure Tariq's going to be like, hey, I see how you feel about me, bro. And hey, man, I'm sorry. It is what it is. How about this? Win your matchup on Sunday against the Jets. How's that sound? Because there's still 2 games left, so there's plenty of time for someone to have a bad game. But right now, I think they're neck and neck, and both of you guys get an award.
Oh man, Chris gonna be that guy, that youth football coach, giving everybody in the league participation trophies. Oh man, that's not.
There's a difference there. I'm not doing that. You see how there's 2 elite guys and then there's everyone else? Yeah, we're not doing all that. Sorry.
So low-key, Aiden Hutchinson is having a very good year, but it's like this is a year he has like no chance of.
Yeah, and usually corners I feel like wouldn't get the usually the pass rusher is going to get like a pass rusher or a linebacker with like all the tackles is usually going to be the one to get these awards. I feel like so it's pretty unique. I feel like.
Also, shout out to Tariq and Sauce for having very strong jewelry games, very young in their career. I'm sure everyone has seen like the Sauce chain.
Oh yeah, he wears it all the time.
Oh,
They both have like unique names too, which I think helps them a little bit. I think I said this earlier in the season and I predicted correctly. I thought DJ Reed was not going to wind up making the Pro Bowl because his name, when you put it next to Sauce Gardner, just looks like some boring ass name. And so not everybody's like, I don't know. He doesn't like grab as many headlines because he's just DJ Reed.
Yeah, that does sound boring.
But DJ Reed's been almost as good as Sauce this year, in my opinion. By the way, so.
Yeah, no, like low key, I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but whenever I look up stuff, I've said this on the pod too. Like one good way for me to have been tracking who all the good corners are is whenever I look up something for Tariq, A, Sauce is there. B, like James Bradbury is right there. Darius Slay is in there. And
yeah, it's all from like 2 teams. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the Eagles, Jets, and then Tariq.
Yeah, exactly. It's wild.
have all the good corners. It's actually pretty upsetting that I really wish DJ would have been in the Pro Bowl, and Bradbury should be.
Yeah, Bradbury's a stud. Yeah, I covered him when he was at the Giants.
Yeah, that he had a really good game against DK in 20 whatever that was when the Giants came here with Colt McCoy.
Right, yeah.
And
won.
Yeah. The Seahawks have lost to the Seahawks might be pretty afraid of, not I want to say afraid, but the fan base might be afraid of like Mike White just because
he's the kind of guy that would beat them in the past. Yeah.
The backup quarterbacks have come in here. Let's see if we can rattle some off here to give us some perspective here for Zach. They lost to Colt McCoy twice.
On a bad hammy, too.
On 2 different teams. Colt McCoy with the Giants, Colt McCoy with the Cardinals. Who else we got? Nick Mullins, the Seahawks have lost to at least once. John Wofford, Seahawks. Well, no, he got hurt.
Playoffs.
He got hurt. And he got sent to the hospital actually in like the 3rd quarter. So he doesn't count. There's been some pretty bad ones here. They had like a Matt Schaub throw for like 400 yards or something on them. Like 2019, they've had some pretty even Sam Darnold just came in here, in one recently. So it's been pretty rough. I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but backup quarterbacks have been a quiet kryptonite for this team here. But yeah, shout out DJ Reed, man. He's been balling. Love DJ Reed. Tariq also has a big ass chain that says Reek.
Oh, does he? Oh,
yeah,
nice to know that. That's funny.
Yeah, when he had it like really early too, so you can tell like he used his signing bonus on that pretty quick.
Breece Hall had a really flashy one too that he got earlier in the season that he was wearing. So I guess that's just a thing the kids do now when they get drafted.
Yeah,
if you got a cool name, why not? And you got the money, I guess. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. It's got to be cool though. Don't get no.
Yeah, like Zach wouldn't look that good on a chain if I'm being honest. Yeah.
Zach need to worry about staying on the team,
right?
At this point, man. Chris, we staying with the defense?
Yeah, I want to stay with defense because overall, including Sauce Gardner, that defense is pretty scary. They are 3rd in NFL in QB knockdowns per dropback at 12.7%. And the crazy thing is they don't blitz. The Jets blitz 31st in the NFL at 14.7%. That tells you everything you need to know about this defensive line. They are going to put pressure on the quarterback. And they also get real stingy in the red zone. The Bills lead the NFL in red zone percentage. This is offenses that reach the red zone and obviously score a touchdown at 44%. The Jets are 6th at 51%. And then they only give up 18 points per game, 18.8 to be exact, which is 4th in the NFL. The Seahawks have a tall mountain to climb. And it's going to be interesting to see how DK, I know he's going to match up against Sauce a lot, or they're going to move him around. It's going to be really interesting to see how Geno Smith attacks them. But my question is, how confident are you in this secondary to slow down this up and down Seahawks offense, especially with this D line that is, man, Quinnen Williams, a monster, and then Carl Lawson?
I mean, I'm pretty. They've shut down just about every single team they've played. Even just looking now, I think they've only given up more than 21 points 3 times, and 2 of them were in week 1 and week 2. If I'm reading that right. So like it's funny, like this last week, they gave up 19 points to the Jaguars. The game was pretty much over as it got to the 4th quarter, but they still only gave up 19 points to the Jaguars, and they're talking like they had this terrible game. And even like after the Patriots game that they lost 10-3, where the offense had 2 yards of offense in the second half, and they gave up a punt return touchdown to end the game. I remember vividly, Carl Lawson the next day, somebody asked, like, is it frustrating that the offense isn't going for? He's like, well, we shouldn't have given up 3 points. So, and so that's kind of like the mindset. Like they are perfectionists, and you mentioned the blitz rate. Like Robert Saleh's defense, he's from San Francisco. They do the same thing. It's built on like getting pressure naturally up front, and never blitzing really, unless you absolutely have to. And so it allows you to get, if your corners are good, it allows you to like be a little more creative on the back end. And they have the corners, and they have when Quinnen Williams is in there in particular, they dominate up front. They have very deep defensive line. They rotate those guys in and out. They roll like 6, 7, 8 deep. Like, it's pretty wild. And so, yeah, they can shut down pretty much any offense. The one thing that's been holding them back recently is they have not turned the ball over, forced turnovers. They had one against the Bears, and other than that, they have none in like the last like 6 games. And so I think that's going to be something they're really like itching to get some turnovers. And I think Geno is probably a good someone that they can get to force into like an error. I think he's made some bad throws last week. I know he had that one interception that was pretty bad. Like they're itching to get something like that going, and they feel like it's going to open the floodgates once they do. So I think they're going to try and get creative and try and force Geno to make some sort of mistake early in that game.
It's fascinating because they went from Chris Jones, who was just an animal against the Seahawks, did whatever he want. I'm watching the film now, like, okay, well, can't block that guy. Cool. So you look at Quinnen Williams coming in, 12 sacks, tied for 7th amongst all pass rushers, but he's tied for 1st amongst with defensive tackles, and that's with guess who? Chris Jones. And then you also look at the QB hits. He's at 24, 7th amongst all pass rushers, and then he's leading all defensive tackles in that category alone. So I'm a little worried about that scenario up front for the Seahawks because they also have this pair, and that's Carl Lawson, a guy that can get after the quarterback. Yep. He might not have the eye-popping sack stats, but he is consistently getting into the backfield. That is something that worries me. And kind of you hinted at, the Jets have been shutting down offenses all season. So this could be a game where, damn, the Seahawks lose again. This has become a nightmare. Mike, remember we were asked earlier in the season on Twitter questions, do the Seahawks have a tough schedule? Can they still make the postseason? It's actually looking like a tough schedule for these boys going up against this Jets defense. And then I guess you ended with a pretty good defense in the Los Angeles Rams, but I don't see how the Seahawks. Now I'm questioning, should I pick the Jets to win this game, man?
You talked yourself out your pick, huh? I love that. That's why I like doing the picks early.
I haven't talked myself out of it, but giving the stats that I read, hearing what Zach is explaining to me about this defense, am I making the wrong pick here?
Go ahead and flip. You got time. You got time.
No, I'm going to stick with it. As I said, I think maybe Geno has that one last hoorah where he makes it tough and he goes down and maybe gets a field goal, a touchdown. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I'm putting too much faith in Geno, but that's what I see might happening. But man, looking at this Jets defense, I just don't know, man. I'm worried. And they got some crazy linebackers too. CJ Mosley, Pro Bowler, tackling everyone. Everyone talks about Jordan Brooks and his tackles. Go look up CJ Mosley and see how he's doing.
Zach, I have a request for you before we get you out of here. I want you to help me play up all of the revenge games in this possible, because there's just so many, man. You got DJ Reed pretty much said the Seahawks lowballed him with a disrespectful offer, and he's going out and showing like, yeah, that was probably a bad idea. All they did just draft Tariq, so kind of. But imagine DJ and Tariq could be like DJ and Sauce.
Exactly. Yeah.
We got the Geno Smith revenge game. There's just tons of angles there. I had forgotten until Pete Carroll mentioned it that he got fired by the Jets in '94.
Yeah, I did too, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. So we got that. We got good. I love George Fant. I don't know how do Jets fans feel about George Fant? Because I love
him. He's had a complicated year because last year he was very good at left tackle, and so when he came into this offseason, they were going to put Mekhi Becton at right tackle and George at left tackle, and he was very excited because this is his contract year. And then Mekhi gets hurt. They move George back over to right tackle. He's not thrilled about that. They signed Dwayne Brown. Then Dwayne Brown gets hurt, and they're going to move George back to left tackle. And then as Dwayne Brown's out, George is playing left tackle, and George's knee has been bothering him all offseason. Then he goes on IR. He was out for a while. He comes back finally. He's at right tackle now. I still don't know if he's 100%, so I don't think he's played amazing, unfortunately. But he's good when he's healthy. Like he's pretty clearly better off at left tackle, I would say. But yeah, he's had a rough couple of weeks, and you hope he just kind of gets a little better down the stretch because he's going to be looking for money this offseason. So.
Yeah, I'd be feeling bad for George. So when I see all the rotating he's doing,
yeah,
I know
he
left.
Was like he was pretty open about the fact that the irony is and you maybe you remember this. I think when he was with the Seahawks, I think he either got hurt or they traded for Dwayne Brown, and then he had to move over to right tackle for them or something like that. Like Dwayne Brown kind of like affected him when he was on the Seahawks too.
Yes, directly. Yeah. They had George playing left tackle. He blew his knee out in training camp of the 2017 season. Blew his knee out in preseason, and then they had to trade for Dwayne. And it was like, well, okay, George is healthy now, but we have Dwayne Brown, so we don't really need
Dwayne's just following him wherever he goes now to steal his job. Yeah,
it's like the same dude stealing your job twice, kind of crazy. Like across the country, like I would be openly I don't care who it is. Like I know he respects.
I think they're close, but yeah, it's still. I'm sure he's like, come on, man.
and as George has mentioned before, that the money difference between the left tackles and the right tackles is not insignificant, man.
Totally.
Like, is it just a different bag that comes with playing on that left side? So yeah, we got to play all that up, man. Dwayne Brown. Revenge game. I know none of these guys necessarily hate the other franchise. Although, if Geno did hate the Jets, and if the Jets hated Geno, like I would understand both sides.
I guess the thing with Geno is that most of the people that were here when he aren't even here anymore.
Right.
Kind of thing. Like everybody was fired or moved on or whatever. I don't even think there's any players left from when he was here. So, he hasn't talked yet this week, I imagine. I am very curious to see what he says.
Yeah, no, I think all of the people I just named, except for Pete, will talk after this show is released. So that's why we gotta hype it up, man. We gotta because this game had potential to be one of the ones that was flexed in the Sunday Night Football, and then both teams kind of fumbled the bag there in their week 16 matchups. But it's a matchup that's got a lot of intrigue, man. I'm excited about it. You didn't talk to Chris right out of his pick.
Almost, man. I'm sticking with it.
In my mind, you flopped as soon as you decided, like, dang. I gotta say this out loud that I think the Jets might win. You flopped. It's fine.
And when the Seahawks are victorious, it's all good.
Hey, this is what happens when you guys do picks this early in the week. You're gonna like be changing your mind as you hear stuff.
I like it the it forces us to reconsider. The Jets are very good. Their defense is like legitimate. I haven't watched any defensive tape from whatever the Jags game. I haven't watched that yet. I will after we do the show.
Wasn't as good as the previous weeks, I would say, but yeah, they still wound up like holding their own. Yeah.
Yeah, gave it 19 points?
Yeah, 19 points. They were doing the dink and dunk thing, but they were doing it very effectively was the issue. Evan Ingram went off on them. Like you'll see tight ends can beat them. I don't know what the Seahawks tight end situation is, but
it's not bad.
Well, they just put Will Dissly on IR.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So that's not great. But Geno's gonna try to get it to DK. He's going to throw it against Sauce. That's one thing I'm also excited for because Geno's one of them quarterbacks who's not really into avoiding anyone. Like he threw it at J.C. Horn and got picked, but he threw it at him. He threw it at Javarius Ward. He threw it at who am I? I'm missing a really good corner.
Lattimore.
No, Patrick Surtain.
That's who.
He threw it at him week one. Like so, Geno's not really worried about throwing at anyone. Who knows how that'll go? But he's not worried about it. So I'm very, very excited. You got Robert Saleh facing Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
Like that's
one of his mentors. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a we got to hype this up, Zach. We got to do it. It's our job as the evil media to make the game bigger than it is. That is our job. So I hope we do that this week. Zach, is there anything you want to plug while you got you on there? Any pods, any stories coming up? They just want to follow you on Twitter?
I have a Jets podcast called The Can't Wait, named after Bart Scott's famous quote. We're doing our next episode. I think Friday. We record live. I think I'm writing something about Sauce this week actually. So I think that'll come out later in the week.
Can't wait. I love. No pun intended on that. I didn't mean to say.
There you go. Yeah.
That's a great name for a podcast. Yeah. Actually, a Jets one. That's just an iconic line.
I inherited it, to be fair. It was Connor's before me, but
did Connor come up with that?
Yeah, I don't know if he came up with the name, but he built up the audience, and I just kind of like jumped in, and now I can claim it as my own. So
that's how you do it, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Shout out to Connor, man. Does good work. Connor used to work for the Athletic. Now he's doing big things. I see him on TV all the goddamn time. So
yeah, exactly.
Doing great stuff over there, ladies and gentlemen. That is our guest, Zach, covers the Jets for The Athletic. Unofficially represents Sauce Gardner in the Defensive Rookie of the Year debate. I don't know if he gets royalties for that or 3%. He's got to talk to Sauce about that. But thank you, sir, for joining us on the Seahawks Man to Man podcast. I'm Mike. That's Chris. Thank you guys all for listening and watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple, The Athletic, everywhere you get your podcasts, man. Chris, close us out, please.
On that note, we thank you guys again for joining us. We will catch you guys after the game against the Jets on Sunday. So that'll be dropping Monday morning. Other than that, have a safe, good holiday. Happy New Year. Actually, I can't say that because we're going to drop a show on Friday. I forgot. So we're not done. We'll say Happy New Year on that day. But other than that, man, Zach, is there anything you want to add?
No, and thanks for having me on, guys. This was awesome.
Excellent. Well, on that note, we'll catch you guys later.